Hello, and thank you for joining me for today's coffee break conversation. Today, I am joined by David Penney, who is the Programme and Training Officer for BBNI. All right, hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, so good to see you. Thanks for joining us for our coffee break conversation. So some of us will know you. You've been out to BB and stuff, but do you want to just tell everybody that doesn't know you sort of who you are and what your job is?
Yeah, no problem. My name is David Penney. I work for Boys Brigade Northern Ireland. I'm the Training and Programme Officer, which sounds very fancy, but in a nutshell, it takes in anything that's sort of training related to BB, whether that's if you're a BB boy and you've been on a Queen's Badge course, or whether you're doing officer training or any sort of training. And then our program side is supporting companies with their program, ensuring that they have the most up-to-date stuff from our UK headquarters, and alongside that arranging competitions and all that sort of stuff that involves. It's quite a wide job aspect, and really, there's lots involved in it. So a lot of things that come through the door at BB headquarters probably end up crossing my desk at some point if it's either program or training. So I've been in that post, it'll be 3 years this summer, and yeah, it's been great. And I suppose before that I was a youth worker. So I was a youth worker for 10 years before that in Carrickfergus. I'm from Carrickfergus. I've grown up in Carrickfergus all my life. Best place in the world if you haven't been. Beautiful castle. Apart from that, there's not much else. That's brought me to, I was in youth ministry for about 10 years, and as I've mentioned there, the later half of that was probably more heavily involved in our company section in BB. Before that, I was involved in our Anchor Boys when I was a student. But got involved in the later stage in the youth ministry in BB, had a real passion for it, still have a real passion for it, for the opportunity that BB offers. It's a fantastic organisation, and a real opportunity to connect with boys and really tell them about Jesus. And that's what I'm about in that role, whether it be training courses, whether it be a competition. I think it always has to come back to that main object of what we're about, advancing Christ's kingdom and making it all about Jesus.
Yeah, so it sounds like your faith journey has been ongoing for a long time, and a lot of your
Oh
work
yeah.
revolves around faith. But how did you come to faith yourself? What does your faith journey look like?
I grew up in the Presbyterian Church, at First Carrick Presbyterian Church. That's my home congregation. Been there since I was a baby. Baptised there and grew up. My parents both Christians. Have a brother. We were brought up in a Christian household, and my parents were fundamental in exposing me to everything church, everything faith related, and really encouraged me the whole way through my life as a child, as a young person. I suppose an organisation that I was a part of when I was a child, where I sort of made that commitment, was Christian Endeavour. There's not as many of them about now. CE, Junior CE, where I had two leaders, Anne and June, and they were fantastic role models of telling people about Jesus. And I remember going there every week, and if anyone knows the CE model, being chairman and doing all the Bible readings and telling the stories and being involved. It was an organisation that encouraged you to actively serve, but certainly really surrounded in prayer. And I remember hearing one of those nights, probably when I was about P5, or P4, P5, around about there, about how to have Jesus in your life was life changing. And I suppose from there on in, it was when I made that commitment. And if I fast forward then a bit, grew up in the church, went to all of the youth stuff, got heavily involved in youth club, youth fellowship, all of those sort of activities. BB was a big part of it too. So I was involved in everything that was sort of happening in church. And I suppose in the summer we would have had quite a big summer program. It would have been a summer mission, it was called back then, where we stayed in the church and slept in the church for a week. We did a bit of like street reach stuff, activities, helping the community, and it was one of those evenings where I just felt, probably when I was sort of mid-teens, about third year, fourth year, year 10, 11, where I realized that when I needed to recommit to Jesus. And probably there I did a recommitment of my life to faith, and really from there then I continued to serve. I was involved in youth club, youth fellowship, and BB, and I was involved in those as a young person. But as I became older, I got involved in serving those. I was a YF leader as a volunteer, youth club leader volunteer for a number of years while I was studying. Throughout all of that, there's been so many different things in faith, but I've always learned that, when I lean on my own strength, probably that's when I fall, and when I lean on God's strength, that's when I thrive, and it's always remembering that. And he's been with me in the good times and the bad times, and that may sound like a really easy, I went through all of those. There was times where it was tough. I particularly found it tough at those early stages in secondary school. Before I recommitted to Christ, I found that I was in a secondary school with virtually no Christians around me, whereas my friends at church were in a different school in Carrick, and they were having great experiences of SU and things, and I felt very alone. But I found that the church was where I came together with, for fellowship and for discipleship and for all of that. And it only continues. I think faith journey always continues, and there's always something new to learn every day.
Yeah, no, I think what's interesting, I think you're number 6 or around about that in the conversations, and almost everybody that has been involved has mentioned names of key leaders that they remember from growing up. So I think that's really, really interesting that even now as adults we still remember those people. So you told us a wee bit about your job. It's obviously quite hands-on and out with people, but obviously COVID has placed a lot of restrictions on things. I think BB were one of the first organisations to officially close. But how has your job changed over the past few months?
COVID's been a challenge. We all know that. From maybe, practically having to rethink everything. Would we have ever imagined a day where this happened? Probably not. BB, I suppose for BB, it came at I'm not saying it came at a good time, because it never was a good time. A lot of our companies missed out on the opportunity of displays, which we know is a very, very valuable time for them. It's a time where you really bring the year to a close and celebrate the young people and children. And it's a shame that they didn't get that opportunity. But I think in terms of the timeline, it was probably really great for BB at that point. Well, we've just got the display and then we're finished up. But I suppose the bigger challenge for BB now is that, at that time when we were going into lockdown, we probably thought this will definitely not be here in September. It'll be sorted. I suppose our big challenge moving forward will be September, and how we re-establish and relaunch BB, and how we start back and how that looks, and whether it is looking very different, whether it's an online presence or whatever. But my job has changed probably in the fact of responding to a lot of COVID stuff, in the sense of, we're, for example, Queen's Badge, responding to how to keep doing those types of awards during that. Part of my role in BB's Duke of Edinburgh coordinator for boys that are involved in that. So they've been pushing a lot of materials about how to continue with that award. So those sort of high-end awards, it's how you continue to do that in a very safe way, and that you're not breaking any restrictions, but you're actually being able to continue on with your awards and that. So that's more of a sort of practical, I suppose, aspect of tidying that up. There's practical things of where we've been trying to, call things off, much like the church. We maybe had things planned. We had our Queen's Badge celebration planned. We'd done a virtual celebration for that. We had training planned at the start of April. We'd moved some of our training online. So a lot of it has been re-looking at things and seeing what can we still connect with leaders or young people in what way. So a lot of the brain energy, I suppose, has been taken up by that, the immediate things that we're maybe postponing or cancelling, and then putting online and offering alternatives, which I think is a great opportunity to explore new things. And I'm sure you can relate to that too in a youth ministry setting. I think it's been fantastic to see how the church has responded. If it just all shut down, then it would be very, very different right now as we're sitting. But I think it's probably, changed in that sense, responding to the need. And I think it'll ramp up as we get closer. We've obviously started thinking about how we move our training and things like that online. But the next phase is thinking about how do we engage back with our young people. Does that mean we will meet them face to face? Maybe not, but how do we have that connection with young people? How do we start BB, and what does starting BB mean? Does that mean physically meeting, or does it mean just, connecting? Because I think in everything, it's the importance of connecting with the young person and being able to have that relationship still. So there's a lot going on. We're obviously now starting to work towards how we can resource that and support people.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities out there, and I suppose that's probably the way to look at it. So, there's been a lot of encouragement already for me, just hearing some of the stuff that you guys have been working on, and that we're not all alone. We're all facing this digital world and
Yeah.
together. But
And it has been great, to see all of that. And, BB, we responded with our BB at Home resource, which I'll do a wee plug for here, which is fantastic. And to be honest, fantastic for anybody, whether you go to BB or not. And that's what we have said all the way through this. If you're a family or anyone that's not even connected to BB, get onto our website and download that Boys Brigade and look up BB at Home, because it's fantastic resources for young people and children, and that'll continue. Obviously, it may change in the way it's adapted. I think it'll probably have more of a scope of how you can use this if we're possibly able to meet face to face in different ways, whether it's smaller groupings or whatever. We don't know any of that at the moment, but that resource, as you can see it now, you could pick it up and use it in a BB night, even if we got back to normal tomorrow. So it's a great resource to have either way. But certainly, it's been we've had a fantastic response to that.
So, have you got a word of encouragement or something you would like to share with any of our young people about your experience over this time?
Not to dwell on the situation. I have found, during this situation, how do we look at things? And I think if we think practically as humans, we always look for solutions. So the question can be, when does church get back, or when does BB get back? And when's all of these restrictions going to be removed? And we maybe sometimes get distracted by daily briefings on COVID-19 and see what's the next big announcement, but actually maybe not actually put our faith in God, that He has a handle on the situation. And a verse that I want to share today is John 10:10, which is a big verse for me. It's always been with me, right back to where I was talking when I was a young person, right through to the Mad Weekend. It's probably followed me in every aspect of youth ministry. And John 10:10 says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." It has followed me, as I said, Mad Weekend. I was on that there for that working group for 10 years, and 5 of those years I chaired the Mad Weekend, and a lot of our big thing was centered around that John 10:10. It's even within the logo, John 10:10. It's followed me in my youth ministry, where we had hoodies and all sorts, and we centered a lot around that. And even quite recently, if you've had the privilege of reading the latest BB Gazette, which I'm sure you maybe haven't yet, but we'll get you a copy. But it's actually underlying a lot of our vision and values and aims at the moment. So our vision, which really speaks to me, has been referenced directly from John 10:10. So the vision is that children and young people experience life to the full in Jesus, and a reference to John 10:10, where we know that's where we want to go with BB. That's what we're about, and it's coming back to that primary object of advancing Christ's kingdom. So I think that's sort of, it's been full circle for me, because that follows me everywhere I go, and it's appeared again. So I want to share that today, because that verse is a fantastic verse. I think in our lives we can, use that line, life to the full. And I suppose as young people, as adults, as anybody in life, we define life to the full in many of the experiences we do every day, whether it be a beautiful meal in a restaurant, or a great concert, or going out with friends, or going to a party, or going away on holiday, getting to explore the world. And we maybe see those things as, that's life to the full. But actually, over this last period, all of those have just been pulled away from us. And when we think about that verse of what does that mean now, what does that mean? I think what we need to take from that is, don't look at lockdown in a negative. Look at it as a time where we've been able to pause, reflect. I know I find that it's been a time where we've slowed down, but we maybe don't have all the stuff that we've always had planned in there. But actually, if we think of that verse, if we really take what that means, where Jesus is life to the full, then all of that stuff that's been removed doesn't really matter. And if we have Jesus in our lives, we've got everything we need. And I think that's something that's really spoke to me throughout this, because we've been thinking about all of the things we miss, and of course we miss them, and we look forward to some sort of normality. But I think we need to really think about what we invest in and what we really value as those big things in our lives. And if Jesus is that big thing, then if we're doing life to the full and Jesus is the person providing that, then all of that other stuff doesn't matter, because all of that stuff, as we can see, has a limit. We can go on a holiday, have a fantastic time away, but it's time bound. We can go to a concert, and as we well know at the moment, we can go to a restaurant, but that can be taken away from us too, and all of those enjoyments can be taken away from us. But actually, in all of it, Jesus can't be taken away from us. And I think that's a thing to always remember in these times that we're living in, that a government restriction may take all of those enjoyable things away, that we think that's a perfect life. But a government restriction can't take us away from Jesus. And I think that's an important thing to remember throughout all of this. So I hope that encourages you today. I hope that does encourage you, and remember those words from John 10:10, that I have come that they may have life and have it to the full.
Yeah. So we're coming to the end of our conversation for this week. But just before we go, we've been asking everybody this. Is there anything that we can be praying for you in your role or as BB in general?
Points for prayer. I suppose the whole situation, like as I say, we can only but hand it over to God. We can't answer the questions. So I suppose guidance for me and the decisions that I'll need to make in relation to BB and how we push forward and continue that. And I suppose prayer for me is as a person and a family. We're all working. Me and Catherine are both working here, and then we've got the girls here. So it's a busy time in that sense. And yeah, praying for the ministry of BB. I think that's an important thing. I think that, praying for the groups out there, that the leaders will have that connection. And I suppose for wisdom and how we do that, we know that there's the online way, we know that there's so many different ways, but it's about selecting the right ways and making sure, I suppose, ultimately that we don't lose that connection with boys. I think that's an important thing.
So thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we will be able to get some sort of BB running soon. I know I was devastated to have missed the displays. I had seen some of the work the boys have been working on, and I was devastated that they never got to see it. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, all the best.